Welcome to My Business Matters, the Michigan Chamber podcast.
Hello, I'm Jim Holcomb, President and CEO of the Michigan Chamber, today's podcast host. Today, we're going to take a deeper dive into Michigan elections in a unique way that citizens can get involved in their communities by being election poll workers. We're going to learn more about how to be part of helping to run a smooth, secure, and accessible elections. A big welcome today to some leading authorities. We have Melanie Ryska. She is the city clerk for the city of Sterling Heights. Plus, she is the current president of the Michigan Association of Municipal Clerks. We have Adam Witt, Township Clerk for Harrison Township, and he's the past president of the Michigan Association of Municipal Clerks. And we have the Michigan Chamber's very own Becky Burtka. She is our vice president of member engagement. Welcome all.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us on.
Hey, Melanie and Adam, if we could start with you, just a little bit of background about maybe what the clerk's role is and what role you play in your communities and a little bit of how you got involved. So Melanie, we'll start with you.
So I have been with the city of Sterling Heights for about 8 years now. I started in this industry in 2002 packing election supplies, actually, for a small community. I got the election bug, and I wanted to learn more. And the more I learned, the more passionate I became about what clerks do, specifically for elections. But clerk's offices, we don't only administer elections. I also handle FOIA requests, birth and death records, passports, licensing, a plethora of other materials. So we stay very busy in our office.
Adam, how about you?
So I've been with Harrison Township since 2004. I worked in the supervisor's office and found out I liked government, so I ran for township clerk in 2012, and I've been here since then. So it's, like Melanie said, clerks do a lot of things, and right now the focus is just going to be on elections, but the rest of the job doesn't go away, whether it's document management or board support or even the residents that just come to the counter on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right that a lot of people don't understand just the breadth of the role that you have and the benefit you have to your communities being public servants and really delving in just to help people solve the problems in their everyday lives. They have to interact either with government or they need something from government, and you guys are that front line. Melanie, I'm kind of interested, you made an interesting comment about getting kind of bit with the election bug. That is really something that I think is a little bit missing right now in society. I know growing up, elections should be exciting. They should be a time of people just engaging and leaning into the process. Do you see that turning around at all, or do you think people are still a little bit kind of pulling back from elections?
I think some people are hesitant just because of, listening to what they hear in the news and read in the papers and that sort of thing. But I think locally, when people are able to engage with their local municipality, their local clerks, their local chair people at their precincts, I think they do pretty much get excited. I know when we conduct training here, people come in, they hear about all the neat things that we're doing, and they hear about that opportunity to serve the voters of Sterling Heights, and they do get excited. So I also think that especially in college towns, I think people are getting very excited about elections, and they're starting to re-engage with it.
And that's so important. We need to make sure that we have our young people engaged here in the future, and they need to have an understanding of their civic responsibilities, the right and responsibility of just being a citizen, and whether you're voting or participating, trying to help people run the elections. I think that's important. Adam, how about you? In your community, how do you make sure that you keep people kind of engaged? Is that a role for the clerk, or is the clerk's role just strictly serve the people that come up but don't try to push out?
No, I think we have a double-sided role. Yeah, we handle the people that come in, but it's our job to talk about what's available for people to take advantage of, whether it's elections or anything else, but especially elections now. We go through a process of mailing voters with their new rights under the changes under Proposal 22-2, so they have early voting, so we're mailing people. We have signs that we're going to put up that remind people of the dates for election. It's a very proactive role that we need to take as clerks to make sure people know and can be engaged, because everyone's got a busy life. I know if you catch me at the wrong time, I'm home for 2 seconds, I got dinner in the kids, and I'm off to baseball or something else. Yep. So you got to catch people where they are, and it does take an effort.
Is technology making that easier? Do you use a lot of technology, whether it's putting something online or a social media platform, is that a good way to connect with voters to make sure they know dates and times? And the thing I like about Clerks is I know your official information. I don't have to worry about veracity of information. I know if it's on the Clerk site, that's what it is.
Yeah, we definitely try and take advantage of social media, and we also do a pretty proactive email campaign for anybody that's given us their email and says, like, hey, contact us about elections. We tell them when ballots are coming, when elections are coming. Try and get that reliable information in front of them so they don't have to guess. They don't have to post in their Facebook group and say, does anyone know what's going on with the election? We want to be the person that they talk to.
Yep, that's great. Becky, you're leading the Michigan Chamber and the Chamber Foundation's civic engagement efforts. Can you talk a little bit, help listeners understand why is it important, and is there a business case for civics? Why should the people in the business community even care about the rights and responsibilities of being a good citizen?
Yeah, well, I think, businesses are seen as leaders in their community, whether large or small communities, large or small businesses. They provide a foundational part of everyone's life, and they're a huge part of our economy, But the foundation's mission, the Michigan Chamber Foundation's mission, is to help businesses be leaders in their community and to support those employees, too, through a variety of ways, civics being one of them. Just a little side note, we've been working on a passion project here, and we just wrapped up our first ever National Civics Bee competition in Michigan with 15 impressive middle school students who identified issues in their community that can be solved through engagement, but also showed their just exceptional knowledge of government facts through 2 incredibly tough multiple choice rounds. They were hard questions about the Constitution, state government, important landmark Supreme Court rulings. But what we've seen is that through that engagement, these students aren't just learning facts, they're learning leadership skills and applying those skills toward what will hopefully be a lifelong understanding of our democratic process and how to genuinely make a difference. Mm-hmm. The Michigan Foundation is partnered with the Civic Trust through the U.S. Chamber Foundation to offer more resources directly to businesses to engage employees, so maybe not middle schoolers, but employees as well. And I'm excited to share a little bit more of that later on.
Yeah, Melanie, it comes to my mind as we sit here and talk that still the most important thing, if I think about elections, the most important element is just public trust. We have to trust in our elections just for a vital and strong and free society. That's, to me, just seems kind of paramount. Can you talk a little bit about how the election system works and what checks and balances that may be in place that people don't fully understand or know of if they haven't talked to their clerk?
So one of the great things about Michigan is we have one of the most decentralized systems in the country, and what that means is that we administer elections at the local level rather than at the county level. Mm-hmm. So this decentralized system, it gives us a number of layers of checks and balances, all the way down from the precinct level to the local level, county level, state level. So we follow election law really to a T, and we all work tirelessly to ensure that everything is done above board and is accurate. And so with all those checks and balances, we make sure that everything that we're reporting at the end, when it's all canvassed and it's all done, is accurate and is the will of the voters.
Which is always just going to be the most important thing, that vote for whoever you want. If people trust it, then we're going to have a much better governing society. Adam, I know as part of the your participation in the association, can you talk a little bit about maybe some of the extensive training goes on? Because there are so many different communities of size and technology and needs, and being decentralized seems to be the much better way to run elections, so every community can just match up their needs with their community. Do clerks go through a lot of formal training, and how do they come to understand their role and their position?
Sure, there are a lot of opportunities for training, and I think it's grown exponentially in the last couple of years because of the drastic change we've seen in election laws through voter-driven constitutional amendments that have just fundamentally changed the way we voted in the state of Michigan. So Michigan Association of Municipal Clerks has taken a very proactive role to expand our educational opportunities. We just finished one today. We did a lunchtime lunch and learn so we could get in front of people with the latest and greatest information from that one precinct jurisdiction to the largest cities across the state of Michigan, because regardless of what size community you are, the rules are the same. You get to tweak things here and there, but everyone is following the same set of rules and has the same duties. So trying to get that information out to everybody that maybe, it's a part-time job for them. So we try and meet them where they are and deliver some education opportunities on their lunch or our annual conference.
Mm-hmm. Now, this, kind of dovetails nicely into a nonpartisan initiative. I know it's happening now, the National Poll Worker Recruitment Day. Obviously, you're the clerks, but you're one person, and I know you have a staff, but really efficiently operate an election. I know it takes several people, and the National Poll Worker Recruitment Day is coming up fast in August. And getting involved as an election worker is something, the Michigan Chamber is certainly urging our members and any listeners to this podcast to do. Melanie, can you tell us a little bit more about what's being done for poll worker and election inspector? What does that entail, and can anybody do it?
So, election inspectors, all you have to do is complete an application. You can do that online. In Sterling Heights, for example, we have an online form. Or a form can be printed from the state's website, and you can mail it into your local clerk. But inspectors have to be registered voters in the state of Michigan. Mm-hmm. They have to attend an election inspector training, which is either going to be held by their local clerk in larger communities or their county clerk in some smaller rural communities. The hours to work an election on election day is 6 a.m. to about 9 p.m. on average, unless they're appointed as a chair or co-chair, and then it might take a little bit longer, going to the receiving boards. Mm-hmm. It is quite a long day, but you do get breaks throughout the day, and you work with a team, so it goes by pretty quickly, especially if you're busy in a polling location. I know I'm a large community, so we hire anywhere between 200 to 500 people for our 40 precincts and our early vote sites and our absent voter counting boards and so on. But so there's thousands of people across the state of Michigan that are making our democracy work, and we need more election inspectors. We always seem to be short. So, we encourage people to reach out to their local clerks and sign up to be an inspector.
Adam, what's the size of your kind of volunteer workforce for elections?
Yeah, we're about anywhere between 75 and 150, depending on the size of the election. You sort of scale it to expected turnout. So we're always adjusting a little bit.
Yeah, that just seems to be for anyone who wants to either learn more, or for the people who criticize the process. It seems like the best way to make sure it's happening properly is get involved, understand it, and how do you find people who are coming in? Are they doing it out of a civic duty? Are they just trying to be engaged? And, what do you do to try to recruit them, Adam?
Yeah, so a lot of people, it is a civic duty, and a lot of our work is something they've done for 30, 40 years. I have one gentleman that every morning when we open the polls, he brings a bell with him and rings it and says, the polls are now open. That's what he digs. But a lot of people, they start because they're curious. They come to the counter and they're asking questions, and that's sort of usually where we find people. Is they'll come and ask questions about elections, and we're like, well, if you're interested, would you consider coming and working for us? Because the best way to get your answers is to see that process up close and get your fingers into it, and understand what happens when you arrive at 6 o'clock and what happens when everyone's leaving at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, it seems to take a lot of the mystery and also the misinformation out of the process to get spread around social media when you have people who say, no, I was there, this is how it works. Melanie, is this something that we should try to push through with college students? Is this a good place for them to get involved?
Oh, absolutely. We try to work with even our local high schools, because we are allowed to hire interns, 16 and 17-year-olds. I have 3 teenagers, 2 of which are of age, so both of them, I coax them into coming and working on election day for us. So even down at that level, at the high school level, yes, and highly encourage going out to local universities, local colleges. Even for August, a lot of college students are home from school, so you can grab some of those individuals, but. The more we get the word out that we're looking for people, and the better. And I know for us, we work with our local, like I said, our high schools, but we work with the Honor Society, and sometimes those high school students can get extra credit or get some sort of extra something in there for high school, and that encourages them to come and help out on elections as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Seems like National Honor Society and other groups where you need to have your volunteer hours. This is just a perfect way for a young person to get involved. Becky, I'm just amazed as I listen to Melanie and Adam talk about this, about the actual manpower that's needed to run an election. And I know there's a civic time off effort that's out there. Can you tell listeners a little bit more about that, maybe how they can support this nonpartisan election activity?
Yeah, absolutely. So this new sort of program that we've been working on in concert with the U.S. Chamber Foundation is, proposing a toolkit to employers to encourage their employees to engage in the civic process. Because as you just mentioned, Jim, the number one reason that people will understand and trust the process is if they're engaged and they know the fundamentals of what that looks like. 4 in 5 Americans agree that business plays an important role in a successful democracy, whatever that looks like to them. And nearly 1 in 5 of them just really aren't sure. So we would love to fill that gap and that need and help our friends like Melanie and Adam kind of fill up that roster with some interested individuals who really want to take a stab at this process. But the importance of getting more employees and more Michiganders involved directly impacts the democratic process and ties back to that data point about how much impact businesses really do have on this engagement. So the goal is to assist with these recruitment efforts, whether it's locally or at the state level, and be that connection between Michigan businesses and these local clerks. We've developed this toolkit to offer encouragement tools, resources for employees, anything from promotion for the opportunity to volunteer, developing an HR policy around this opportunity, or perhaps even offering PTO, though that's not an absolute and not something that is a one-size-fits-all for a lot of Michigan businesses. But this effort directly aligns with the Foundation's goals of promoting civility in communities and positioning Michigan businesses as thought leaders, because businesses are inherently seen as leaders in their community.
I think what strikes me, really jumps out, is there's a role for everybody. If you want to be involved, there's a place for you to do it. And for the business community, we're encouraging everyone to work with their employees and make sure that everyone can, take part in this great thing in America, and that's having free, fair elections and just making sure that everybody has a good experience with it. We're starting to run out of time, but I want to give everybody one last shot of any specific point, something we didn't raise, or just something you would like to reiterate to make sure our listeners have the information they need to make sure the election season goes smoothly for them. So, Melanie, we'll start with you.
One thing I want to add to that, we talked a lot about, businesses and them figuring out a way to get their employees involved on Election Day. We have 9 days of early voting now, so there's 9 additional opportunities for workers to, have those have the businesses work with their workers to be able to help out with elections. But I just want to close on my part just to say, just to reiterate kind of what Adam alluded to earlier. We really do encourage those who might have questions about the integrity of our elections, who want to learn more, who feel that it's their civic duty to just apply to be an election inspector today. And finally, just remember that election workers are your next-door neighbors. They serve on your kids' PTA. They volunteer in your community. They're your family, your friends. And so as we go into this, this tension-filled election cycle this year, just remember that the people who are volunteering and working elections, they're just like everybody else.
And these are nonpartisan positions, so everybody's there just doing the good that they can do for their community.
For the most part, yes. Yeah. I mean, there are requirements, to applications to identify, in a particular party. But when you're in a polling location, absolutely, everybody's nonpartisan. There's no political conversations. Everybody's just trying to, do their civic duty and help out.
Adam, any final thought?
clerks across the state of Michigan, over 1,500 of us, are going to be putting on 2 more elections this year. And a lot of workers, maybe some of you listeners, are going to have the urge to sign up. Please do. But most importantly, just get out and vote. We're doing this work for you to make sure your voice is heard. And I also will be making sure I send Jim and Becky both an application to come be an election worker here if they'd like. So.
Yeah, I'm definitely signing up in my community. I'm going to try to recruit my kids to do it too.
Sounds great.
Becky, any final thought for you?
Yeah, as Melanie mentioned, this election year is of the utmost importance nationally and internationally. And I love that she touched on, seeing your neighbors at the polls. It truly does sort of fill that space and hold that trust, at the polls. It's important for employers and employees to engage in this and to be seen as those leaders in the community and in this space. And it drives volunteerism, it fills a need, but it also really does just boost that confidence and understanding of the process in general. And I think that's what we're after with the foundation.
Absolutely. Well, what a wonderful conversation. A very special thanks to Melanie, Adam, and Becky. Melanie and Adam, thank you for your public service. Thank you for making sure that our elections go off without a hitch and people can trust them. And thank you to all of you for listening. Tune in to our next episode. Subscribe and like our podcast for easy notifications. And until then, get educated, get involved, and find out how you too can be an election worker, poll worker.